they're just such unique cars. There's not many of them, and when you see it on the road, everyone knows what it is and where it comes from.
As automotive anoraks, we often like to refer to brands using the emblematic mascots that represent them. Blue and white propeller, interlinked circles, leaping cat, prancing horse. I mentioned those and the association is pretty immediate. But what would you conjure up if I were to start talking about the stars of Pallades?
No, Ignition GT has not become an astrology show, so apologies if you were hoping to find out whether Pluto and the moons were shaping up to collide with Uranus this week. Instead, the stars of Pallades inspired a symbol for a rather special automotive brand that enjoys a faithful and fervent following with a strange polarity of wares that span from winged wonders that boast rally stage aspirations to pet-friendly wagons for outdoorsy types.
Today, however, we are examining the former camp with a little ode to the Impreza and its WRX and STI spin-offs. But first, let's take a quick stroll through the more arcane crevices of history.
It all started in 1953 when a company named Fuji Heavy Industries decided it would like to manufacture automobiles. Some of the conglomerate's other divisions built scooters and planes, so it seemed natural to explore cars as well.
Subaru was chosen as their banner, being the Japanese name for the Pallades star cluster, and their first car, the 1500, was born. It was powered by a modest 35 kilowatt straight 4-source from Peugeot. It was front-engined and drive was sent to the rear wheels, and only 20 were built for trial purposes. But the brand really got into stride with the follow-up, the Subaru 360, which saw a production run from 1958 to 1971, and in that time, almost 400,000 units were built.
In that time, the company also launched the Sambarcade truck and the Subaru 1000, the first model to employ the horizontally opposed boxer engine that has now become such an integral part of the brand's entire marketing architecture. Amusingly, it was also front-driven, so none of those symmetrical all-wheel drive stickers stuck proudly in the corner of the rear window.
Now, ardent fans will have to forgive us for fast-forwarding through a sizable chunk of history and onto the 1990s to a point that arguably best defined the brand. And that means mentioning two essential acronyms: World Rally Experimental, or WRX, and Subaru Tecnica International, or STI, the motorsport division of the brand. Subaru started scratching its competitive itch with the Legacy sedan, and in 1993 they won their first ever World Rally Championship, and that was victory number 1 of 47. Thank you very much.
But it was the smaller Impreza, or Impureza, as Wikipedia suggests, that really forged that reputation for greatness in battle on dirt, gravel and snow. The model was championed from 1993. Its success is, of course, closely linked to legendary surnames like McRae and Solberg.
In 2008, the Subaru World Rally team announced their withdrawal from the World Rally Championship, citing the recession as one of the biggest reasons, but also stating rather smugly that their seemingly endless reign of victories had succeeded in achieving the brand equity they had hoped for the Impreza nameplate. But when you line them up, as we've done here, it's quite clear to see why that performance heritage will endure.
We believe that these cars, some of them are already classics, but many of them are going to become future classics. So we decided to find as close to stock looking cars, as stock as possible, and bring them here today, because maybe in 5 years' time you won't see these cars.
The first generation WRX debuted in 1992 under the chassis code GC8A, and these alphanumeric titles get Subaru owners really excited. In some markets, such as ours, this Genesis model was branded the Impreza GT. Now the more powerful, more focused WRX STI followed up in 1994. Now you'd have to be a serious aficionado to distinguish between the subsequent GC8, B, C, D, E, F and G iterations, because while the mechanical changes over the years were significant, the basic styling of the thing remained the same. The new millennium ticked over and the second generation of the car was launched with its distinctive bug eyes. This GG model, or GD if you refer to the wagon, soldiered on until 2007, receiving notable facelifts throughout its life cycle, spawning terms like blob eye and hawkeye in the fraternity. By now, the STI had gained significant traction, and aftermarket tuners were also keen to jump aboard.
So the stimulating edition is a version, it's an upgrade of a normal STI with a pro drive kit and a little bit more torque than a normal STI. Standard, it came with a 225, and I think the torque is about 550. It's your basically if you look at the grille, it's slightly different from your normal STI, and then it also came with a distinctive stimulating bed.
The third generation saw the wagon body format fall away, and that was replaced with a hatchback variant, which purists seem to loathe. Luckily, Subaru still offered the GE variant with a boot.
In 2011, the sedan variant went on sale, alleviating some of the displeasure the loyalists felt towards the hatchback. This of course meant the return of the famed rear spoiler, plus a number of tweaks to the suspension and a few other mechanical bits and bobs.
In 2014, Subaru launched the fourth generation WRX, with the STI following up in 2015. Although a new naming convention meant that the Impreza part of the title fell away, allowing them to position the other two acronyms as their own brands respectively. Spending a day with the entire sporting constellation from the stars of Pallades was rather fun indeed, and it's events like these that warm the cockles of our motoring hearts. So a big thanks to the organizers for putting it all together. Now allow me to change out of my Scooby Nation appropriate outfit, and let's wrap this piece up by looking at the latest offering. In 2018, performance motoring plays a relatively small role in the Subaru story, particularly in the landscape of our market, where the current WRX and STI sells in tiny volumes. There are even months where they struggle to find a single home to park in. The more practical and sedate Forester, Outback and XV are the models that bring home the bacon. And this altering of focus is a reminder from behind the wheel. When you survey the competition, the Germans are foremost in mind, with their fast and foolproof offerings boasting dual-clutch dexterity and all the rest. But some may argue that the approach of keeping things as simple as possible is exactly what makes the current WRX and STI authentic in the eyes of brand fans and those who fancy themselves as true driving enthusiasts. In the latter, and staying true to the spirit of its forebears, this is a car that trades off everyday cushiness for uncompromising sporting abilities. Now, you already know about the highlights, but we will remind you of the fact that it's got a 6-speed manual transmission, power sent to all 4 wheels, and of course a 2.5-litre turbocharged engine. Now, some changes were rolled out to the STI in the middle of its life cycle, and that includes suddenly resculpted bumpers, a splash of color for the brake calipers, and a more contemporary infotainment system, as well as a Harman Kardon audio system. Anyway, let's wax lyrical and slightly critical about the sensations.
you do need to put in a little bit of effort to extract the breadth of talents the STI has. Just like that Rihanna song, it demands some work. And the rewards are great. You can cover serpentine layouts at an impressive rate of knots and with supreme confidence, given the benefit of all-wheel drive and a lower center of gravity, thanks to that boxer engine whose design enables it to be placed quite far down in the bay. Although I think this STI sits among an elite group of cars that still seeks to immerse the person at the wheel in proceedings. It seems like the Japanese are still good at this sort of thing, and right now my mind is cast towards nameplates like the Civic Type R and MX-5 and 86, and of course there are others. They don't sell in bulk, but we can be pleased they exist.